And then the energy was intensifying. As I'm getting all this weird stuff going on, I'd be feeling like I'm seeing my guide is trying to help me. So he's introducing me to three nine-dimensional dragons, basically. And I'm thinking, okay, that's too much. I'm coming back to my regular life. This astral travel stuff is getting really weird. And then in real life, I'd feel my arm lift up by itself and I'd see a dragon licking it with love.
Today, we're talking with Cynthia Sue Larson, best-selling author and genius timeline shifter. Welcome in, Cynthia. How are you?
Hello, such a pleasure to talk with you again. It's such an honor to be on this program in particular. Just love what you're doing with this. Just
Thank
love
you.
it. Journey to
Just
the New Earth. It's perfect. It's what we need.
wonderful. I want to start before we jump into your story and tell you a story that I have about you, sort of.
Okay.
I was mentioning to Cynthia, we have never met in person. I have interviewed her once before, and I'll link that interview down below. However, I think about her far beyond the reach of our personal relationship just because it's so thought-provoking, a lot of things she said. And I was thinking about her the other morning and she shared this. I'm not sure if she shared it on tape the last time we filmed together or if it was before our conversation. She shared that she has never owned a cell phone and will never own a cell phone. I think there was a past life memory of a very dystopian culture that may have informed that decision.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that one morning and wondering, I wonder how that is for Cynthia. And I wonder if I would prefer my life if I didn't have a cell phone. And I was sort of mulling it over. And within 20 minutes, I had lost my cell phone. I'm not kidding
Yes.
you. And I did not have it for the entire day. I eventually got it back at the end of the day. And what I did is I watched myself, agitation, a little bit of stress, a little bit of disconnectedness. And what I came to understand, at least for me, by the end of the day, because I knew I was living the opportunity to find out what my question was, like, what's that like? I decided that I would prefer your life without it, but I have constructed my life to where I kind of need it. So I just thought that was, I mean, I definitely shifted right into the reality where I didn't have a cell phone. So
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Well, some people do go off the cell phone, but it's a process. If they've
mhm.
had one, then they need to find substitutes for
Yeah,
the things they depend on because it
yeah,
right, it does so many things. I know.
yeah.
It's like a clock and a camera and everything. Calendar.
Right. And I think that I have experienced the sense of being almost trapped in it because there's so much that I'll do online that I then have to verify on my phone.
Right.
And I realize these systems perhaps have been set up to keep us in that grid.
You're right.
And so I recognize that. We can talk about your dystopian memory in a little bit. But first, I have watched so many interviews of you where you talk about your Kundalini experience, and then the interviewer moves on, and I'm like, wait, go back, go back, go back. Can you share with us your Kundalini experience? And I'd like for you to kind of walk us through how it felt, what you experienced, how you integrated it, and how you think that it has expanded your understanding of the reality system that we're in.
It's essential for everything I'm doing right now. I'd say it's the key that opened the door to all the books I've written, all the work I do, my work as a life coach, everything, and the experiences that have come to me and through me by virtue of having had that Kundalini door opening. So I'd say it's vitally essential for me to know the fullest potential of living my fullest life as the best I can be in this lifetime. Without that Kundalini awakening, I would not be who I am today. That's how important it is. And before we started, you said something I want to mention because it was priceless and it ties in with this whole show that you're doing, Journey to the New Earth. It may be critically important for all of us to be aware of this pathway because it might be an important part of our awakening as a human evolutionary step. So, with that framework, how was it? Wow. It was amazing and shocking. And I don't casually ever wish that anybody could have this experience because there's so much that goes to it. It's not just the gifts that come through it. If you focus on that, it looks like, oh, wonderful, I want that. But there's so much expansiveness that happens I'll just describe what happened to me. But it did take me 5 years to integrate the experience. And at the time, it felt like I was perhaps going crazy. That's all I can say, to the point that I was talking to my brother-in-law about it. But let me describe what did happen. So it started in the year 1994 when I was 32 years old. And my birthday was January. A couple months later, it was Easter time. And my cousin Esther was visiting me in California. She wasn't living here at the time. And she was talking, she's very spiritual. And so I was talking about how I was feeling, which was kind of a weird feeling for me. I felt spiritually like I was not awake yet. And I was hoping she might understand this with her deep love of God, like I have also. And I thought, okay, she's going to get this, I hope. And she didn't exactly get what I was saying, but because she was younger than me, maybe she'd never heard about this. But and I had not yet gone through Kundalini. I do count this as part of the Kundalini, though, because I was craving to wake up. And I told her, I feel like I'm not awake. I feel like I'm not really fully here. And she said, well, what do you mean? And I said, I feel like everything's sort of foggy or muddy, or I don't know. It's just like I'm not really here. Like I said, you know that feeling when you try to wake up and you fall back asleep? I feel like that. Like I could be awake, but I'm not. And she listened to me, and I that was a marker for me because later that year, about 6 months later, my husband at the time, my first husband, had gone on a business trip, and then he came back and he said, I had the biggest epiphany. And it all happened looking at the hotel room ceiling, basically. And I was asking him, like, wait a minute, you're looking at a ceiling. He said, yes. He said, but then he said, to explain it, he said the light was changing and things were happening. And he just got this deep feeling. And as he was saying it, it wasn't exactly what he was saying that hit me so much as it's almost like something had given me permission, like, okay, now. It's sort of like that moment was like I'd been waiting for him to get to that point where he had that awakening, and then, okay, now. And the now, oh my gosh, this is indescribable, but it just suddenly felt like so much energy started flowing through me. And that process started a little slow, but then it got more intense. And I started hearing my guides really clearly. And to describe everything that was happening, it seemed like everything was happening all at once. It's kind of like that movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. It was such a convergence, such a crashing together of so much information, high sense perception information. And I was always intuitive, but this is another level. I was getting little movies, vignettes, like I'm seeing true things happening that I have no business knowing. That was like a friend of a friend, and they're having a conversation. I'm like, why am I here? And why am I seeing this? And suddenly the next minute I'd close my eyes and I'd see better than ever, a 360-degree view around all of me. And I'd sort of rise up out of my body and immediately be astral traveling and flying. All these things were happening, trying to get a grasp on it, talking to my guides about it. Like, okay, let's anchor this in something. The help that my guides were giving me, it just seemed like it got weirder. That's all I can say. Like, what?
You're not helping.
Well, I think they were trying, and I'm sure it was good. But even my dreams seemed like they were different kinds of dreams. I was a long time lucid dreamer, but these lucid dreams would be like I'd be in my house and the walls would dissolve. They just sort of open up, and it was freaking me out because I'd be feeling safe in a house. Like, okay, this is calm, this is safe. Wait, the wall is dissolving. But then I'd wake up and I'd realize, what was it dissolving into? What am I seeing? It was beautiful. I'd see like a jungle, I'd see nature, forests, beautiful scenes. So I'd realize, okay, this seems good. But there was also some stuff. I'm jumping all around because that's what was happening. And then the energy was intensifying. As I'm getting all this weird stuff going on, I'd be feeling like I'm seeing my guide is trying to help me. So he's introducing me to 3 9-dimensional dragons, basically. And I'm thinking, okay, that's too much. I'm coming back to my regular life. This astral travel stuff is getting really weird. And then in real life, I'd feel my arm lift up by itself and I'd see a dragon licking it with love. I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is just too much. And I'd close my eyes and light would get brighter. I was seeing this brightness, like if you're in heaven. Like I do have memories before I was born of what it's like. So I felt like, oh, I'm back there, kind of, but I'm also being welcomed into a very multidimensional experience. And then the most normal part of this whole thing, like hearing voices, seeing things moving that I'm not touching, no one's touching them. Like impressions were being made in my bed at one point. Just all kinds of stuff. Really too much to even describe. But every night for the most intense part of it, I was waking up at 111, 222, 333, 444, 555 every single night because I'm stubborn, and that blew my rational mind. It's like, there's no way. I've never done that before or since. And why would I wake up every hour and, 1 minute or whatever? It was just, or 11 minutes, whatever that was. I didn't even try to do that. There's no way that could happen. And that was sort of an anchor point also, showing me it was like a message. The whole thing was full of meta messages. Like that was a message, like everything's fine. It feels like you're going crazy. The walls are opening, but if you look, then you see it's even more wonderful. It's not human design, it's nature design. So that's a message. The numbers were showing there's a pattern, there's a structure, you're being guided, you're safe. It didn't feel safe. And the amount of energy that was running through me made me extremely psychokinetic, to the point, I guess I had a little bit of psychokinetic capability, and I was slightly psychic before this. It just ramped everything way up. If I was not grounding myself, then really crazy stuff would happen. Like sticks and stones would hit the windows when there's no wind and there's no one out there. Nobody's throwing them. But I'm not the only one hearing or seeing it. My husband's noticing it. It's, super psychokinetic stuff going on. And so I had to learn to work with my energy field at higher levels of mastery than I'd ever been required to before. So there are many facets of this experience that are unsettling. It's like if you'd been walking, like babies learn to crawl, then they learn to walk, but you don't just pick a baby up and put it on a bicycle. And that's kind of like what the Kundalini feels like, or a motorcycle. It's like, or a rocket ship. It's like, or one of those little Star Trek things that just flies through the forest. like, wait, I was crawling a minute ago. Give me a break here. And so the integration of it just takes time because what happens, if you wonder, like, what does that feel like as an energy being? Because I do feel my energy body. It felt like I'd always known I was bigger than what fits in my body. But after Kundalini, it wasn't just like I sort of intuit that. Now I know that. It's like, oh, I see how much more of me there is than can ever fit in this body at any one time. And it took 5 years to get used to that. Like, that's fine. This is good. And this is just, I could keep going on and on about this. I know I'm rambling, but
You're not rambling. It's fascinating to me. How about your expanded awareness, like the 360 vision and the seeing what's going on in a house 4 streets down with people you don't even know?
I know.
Were you able to kind of bring that in, or is it something you just learned to, let kind of flow through your awareness?
There was so much coming at me in that's a good question, but I felt overwhelmed, frankly. It felt like this is too much information, and I still have to function in this 3D world. If I'm getting that much bleed through or leak through, it's like too much because I still need to be able to see what's in front of me actually, and who I'm actually talking to right now, rather than just something just crashing in. So I started learning that I need to sort of set up sort of a bouncer or a sort of a pre-screen process on the outer filters of my psychic space, if you will. So I needed to let everybody know. I'll still help out in emergencies if it's really important and you need something right now. Okay, but let's just not have everybody come crashing in. So one of the first things that to integrate all this was sort of a protection system, if you will. It's energy hygiene around the world bubble views that we have that we're not usually conscious of. I didn't used to think about it, but I do want to be of service to those I love and care about. Of course I do. And if there's something seriously going on, because I'm able to, thinking about things, have non-local effect, actually. So for me, just to view something is not like, oh gosh, this is going to happen. When I see something that looks a little horrific, I'm part of a team that's like a fail-safe team. And so we're looking at that. Does that look good to any of you? And like, So then I'm just like, this is not how good can it get? And because I'm looking at it and I guess I'm here, then I'm going to bring all my heart and soul to this, and I'm going to envision this suddenly going a different direction. And I've been part of that many times. I know that's part of this Kundalini process. So some of us who go through this might be chosen or called to do these sorts of things. So but I have overall said, okay, back off everyone. This is a little too much to be crashing in all the time, because it's just very difficult to function if I'm doing one thing and then suddenly I'm like, woo, like, because I'm not doing, it's like a drug trip, but I haven't done all these drugs. So I don't know what they're like, but this was crazy stuff. And it was real. I'd get feedback from people. I didn't want to be eavesdropping or seeing things that are very private. This is not my life. I didn't, maybe they want to witness. I don't know, but why does it need to be me? If I need it, they're great, but otherwise, that's their private thing. I don't need to see that. And it has nothing to do with technology that we think of in terms of devices. This is totally through consciousness itself.
Yeah. And that's what I've said so many times, or I've thought so many times, maybe a little both. We are the technology.
Yes.
We're just not connected to it.
We actually are connected to it.
Okay, except I don't know that most of us know how to
Right.
work it.
Right.
So if you were to talk from a scientific perspective, and I know you're a science, I mean, you're a very critical thinker. How would you describe what happened energetically in your body during that experience?
Yeah, energetically it was interesting because it felt like a little bit like electricity. I've never felt like I was part of an electric wire, but I sure did in the intensity of that initial experience where it felt like I could, with the energy flowing through me, I could power a small city. I felt certain of it. Like this is a crazy amount of energy flowing through me, nonstop, not stopping, just going, relentless. I had to learn to sleep with that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for people that practice things like Reiki, they might have felt something slightly similar, but this is even more so. It just feels like it just feels like it's opening up all of the energy pathways and then holding it there, and then expanding it a bit more. Just seeing like how much can you comfortably embrace, and what are you? What's your capacity? What can you? It's an intelligent energy. This Kundalini energy, very intelligent, very sentient, very conscious, working with me, and just I could feel it going through the chakras. If you look at the energy body, fortunately, there weren't any blockages in me at the time that it was awakening. There was some tightness in my throat. And so that felt a little stuck. So every place there was a little tightness, it was just gently but firmly and very steadily and unrelentingly. It was just like insistently opening, opening, opening.
Did you feel like your body was expanding, like your physical form?
I felt like it was the same body. It was a little terrifying. This is why I wouldn't wish this on a person. It all sounds great if you're hearing. I mean, a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, sign me up." I would no. I'd say no, 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 no. Get ready first.
Yeah.
Do your meditation, clean yourself out, make sure you're good with yourself and fully aligned with your head, with your heart, with your gut. At least, just get true with who you are. Get real, get authentic, and then maybe I think then it's going to be easier. I would never call it an easy process. It didn't feel like my body was expanding. It felt like those three nine-dimensional dragons I'm talking about. Those are
Mm-hmm.
me. That's me. That was me being shown that's you. Okay, and that's like getting your mind around like, wait, like what? Like even one nine-dimensional dragon is like, what are we talking about here?
Mm-hmm.
But the way they see things, and everything they see, they're creating. That's a part of me. So I'm talking about me. I'm talking about my Kundalini self is it's like an analogy, a metaphor, but it felt real to me. It's like three of these nine-dimensional beings, because I'm in a three-dimensional reality. So I think that's how I got three of them. And they're moving through time like I am, but they have a much more solid sense of being interdimensional. And this is something I write about. I just touch on it, a very small piece of it in my book, Reality Shifts, talking about it's in the part where I'm talking about dimensional thinking and referencing Ken Wilber's work, and starting with this idea that because I got this independent of Ken Wilber, it came to me through these dragons during my Kundalini awakening. They were showing me, they would ask me questions like, what dimensional consciousness am I noticing now? And so like the thought of a single photon, one quantum particle is like one-dimensional thought, one-dimensional beingness. And then two-dimensional is kind of like that photon traveling through time. And so on and so forth, three dimensions, four dimensions. Three and four we're pretty versed in because we live in a three-dimensional space and we move through time. But then when we get to five dimensions, that's higher level thinking. Then we're getting into a more elevated sense of self. And that's where it starts going a little tilt, like, what is that? But to me, fifth dimensional is kind of like collective community thinking, like what we get, like the Mandela effect, like things that are collectively changing for groups of us. And then six is moving through time for that. Seven, this is very beautiful. That's where there's a lot less of the conflict going on. And you can think, I also notice this dimensional thinking ties into chakras. So that seventh dimensional, if you're familiar with what that feels like at the crown chakra, if you've meditated and you or
Oh,
just,
okay.
you can look at some of the Tibetans will study, they'll look at a mandala, different than Mandela, and they'll look at like a symbol of that represents the crown chakra, for example, and you can go into this beautiful meditative state with the intention that you're going to just open yourself up to receive inspiration, protection, guidance, and all that good stuff through your crown chakra. That's kind of what the seventh dimensional feeling feels like when we're united at that level. There's no more fighting, there's much more oneness, harmony. And that's our full potential as humans. But I was dealing with nine-dimensional dragons, right? So I was going to eight, which is like 7 dimensions plus time. And then nine, which is causal reality. Ken Wilber writes about it. You think it and it is so. And so me at three, that's what I was playing with, is realizing I can think something and it's so. And that's what humanity is capable of doing. We've been given these chakras, including chakras above the physical body. We do have eight, we do have nine, we have even above that. And it's kind of like, maybe that's what they mention when they say stairway to heaven. It's kind of like these chakras, these energy levels of dimensional being. So energetically, it feels like whoosh, so much energy. You know, if I feel it, like I'm feeling it right now, if people are feeling this too, then you can feel it just like rising up, this Kundalini. I'm just bringing it in and feeling it now. So anyone, wow, anyone energy sensitive can feel that rush. Now for me, it's something I can bring in, and then I can come back to sort of an ordinary way of living. But in the awakening of the Kundalini, there was no exit. There was no place to run or hide. Even if I closed my eyes, it got brighter. It got more intensive. That's part of that out of control feeling, until I basically surrendered to an awareness that I do have higher levels of conscious agency. That, you know, obviously that's the level that's choosing a lot of the events in our lives, and recognizing it can be part of a harmonious whole. Sometimes it's not what we think we want to go through, but when you embrace sort of that quality, then you can get to, it's a beautiful place of being, with the recognition of the sovereignty of spirit that we have, and what people might call fate. To me, fate would be just a decision by a higher level of conscious agency. Like, this would be good for all concerned. Would you be okay being part of this? Like, okay, I'm
You
sorry.
know,
That's
I
a huge.
wonder as you're speaking, and like I said, I've followed you for years because my opinion is, and perhaps you agree with me, I think we discussed this earlier, is this is where humanity is going. This is the completion or the further development of humanity.
Yes.
In other words, that awareness, that ability, that energy system or pattern is where we're going. And I can even compare, when I look at my intuitive skills 30 years ago, it was like slugging through mud
Mm.
compared to what it is now. Not that I have any intuitive skills of note, but it's definitely different
Yes.
now. So it's like I look at you and I'm wondering, well, she volunteered to come here to do this, to help humanity through this transition
Yes.
that we're going through. And your story, it almost sounds like you were shoved in the seat of a Formula One car at full speed and said, okay, figure it out.
I know. I did. Good analogy. Yeah, totally. It felt like that. And I had to give a talk in public that same week that I was feeling, well, every day was like a new day. One of the days was, so now your spirit's not in your body. You're like a puppet thing. And I'm like, oh, great. And this is the day that I need to give a talk in front of hundreds of people. Like, oh my gosh. Oh, I checked to see if I could still read my notes, and I could. That was good. But I realized it's hard to even describe what that feels like when you're, I think this whole experience was teaching me things, like one little bit at a time, like you without the cell phone. But I wasn't even trying, I don't remember asking what would it feel like if I had no spirit in my body. That's a horrible feeling. Wouldn't wish it on anyone. But
Yeah.
but I had to go to total faith. I had to realize, even if that happens and I don't know who I am and I feel like I'm some weird monkey or something, like a puppet thing, like what is this? Like, where am I? It was disconcerting is an understatement. So I just realized, okay, well, I can work with these 3 9-dimensional dragons. So I'm going to bring one with me. That will guide me where I am. I'll leave one. Oh, that was the day the sticks and stones were hitting the windows because I was a little freaked out that I thought I have to give a talk today. It was freaking me out big time. And I saw my daughter. She had something rippling under her face and under her skin. She said, "Mommy, my face feels funny," and it's just rippling around. It was weirder than any horror movie, and I don't like horror movies.
Yeah,
And
I don't
I
either.
thought, okay, this is it. This is it. Okay, okay. Enough of when they mess with my daughter, it's I say they. Obviously it's me feeling agitated. Like, okay, I'm gonna have to be really calm. So I just grounded myself and I said, I still feel like a monkey thing, puppet thing. I don't know who I am, but I do know that these 3 dragons, I'll keep one for the earth, look after the whole world. One with my home, because I don't want anything throwing sticks and stones at the house. One, I need to get somehow to where I'm giving my talk. I need it to help me drive the car, give my talk, and get home again. So here we go. Like, this is crazy. This is crazy.
I'm wrestling the dragons here. I'm herding them to where they need to be.
Well, it's more like I was trusting the dragon to show me how to bring the energy to give my talk. Like, how can I do it when I
Mhm.
don't feel like I'm really here? I feel like
Yeah.
I'm not me. Nobody knows it. I look normal, I guess, but I knew I wasn't. And this is that integration way. It took 5 years to just feel like, yeah, that Kundalini energy, that's me. And to
Yeah.
just feel like, okay, sometimes I feel like a dragon, and okay, it's a 9 dimensional dragon. Cool. That's who I am. I look a little like that, I guess, for now. But it's not just looking like it, it's being like anything I think, now it manifests, which is a kind of a heavy thing, and we don't usually live our lives that way. I've
No,
I've had to adjust.
not in this reality system.
I've had to make a lot of adjustments just so that
Mhm.
I don't think bad things, even about people that I think are bad, or I can't even think that. So I can't even go there because that's just me. But I need to realize, like, okay, no more. All I can do is give blessings to everyone. So it's changed who I am as a person in all these years, But it took 5 years just to integrate it enough to be able to
Yeah.
be that way.
Are you able to recognize others that have had the same Kundalini experience? In other words, are you guys in a club? Like you've got a secret sign or?
Yeah, I can feel it. It is
Mhm.
palpable. I met a Mongolian shaman. He came to one of the conferences that was organized by Ruth Inga Hines for this Independent Scholars of Asia. And so he came to a conference in California where I am, and he doesn't speak English, but in the garden he picked a little flower and he just handed it to me and through a translator was saying, and he didn't bring a translator, one just showed up who just happened to be there on the Santa Sabina campus, of course, speaking Mongolian fluently, had nothing to do that
And
day.
English.
Yeah, right? I know, like that just happens. But see, that's
Yeah.
the kind of thing that happens when you think it is. And so the Mongolian shaman, he doesn't speak English, but no big deal. He doesn't need to bring a translator. They always show up. And sure enough, one showed up. So the translator is just saying, like, this is your color. And so but the color of the flower is a color between red and violet. Like our prism is, it's if you look at the frequency range, it's from red on a rainbow to violet to the low to the high frequency. But if you find a flower, it's almost like it sort of wrapped the rainbow. And that is the color that I was working with at the time. So sometimes we see that through the colors in our energy fields. Clearly, he had had his Kundalini awakening. He is a shaman. Like his translator just shows up at that conference. Yeah, these kind of things are amazing. So quite often it's possible. It's not always necessary to recognize others. But like I said, if there's something affecting all of the planet or all of humanity, all of those of us who are tuned in to feel these things energetically, we don't need to see it on the TV. We don't need to see a news report. It's something that comes through that we're feeling that we can then assess and we can decide, does this look like something good, or is this a blessing for the world and humanity? If it doesn't feel like it at that level, I know I'm not the only one evaluating this. I know that there's a group of us looking at it like, nah, let's just dismiss that. We don't need to choose that for those of us who are on the onward and upward, how good can it get path.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that your story really illustrates so very clearly how important what we do with our energy is. Even though most of us on Earth right now, Earth humans, are kind of novices with the whole energy, moving our energy thing, it really illustrates for me how important it is where we focus, how we maintain ourselves, what we do with that. And as we continue to evolve, it's going to become, I hope that we all get to the point that you are, this amazing ability for creation.
Yes, I do believe we're headed there. I see it when I look around because when I was like decades ago, I didn't hear about anything about Reiki. There weren't
Yeah.
sound healers. There are so many things going on now that are brand new. They're part of this new earth, as you know. And the placebo effect was not honored or recognized the way it is
Mhm.
today. So we've gone through tremendous advancements in these areas of the true technology, this human technology. And I see
Yeah.
the Mandela effect as a type of technology too, to work collectively together. So even if one person doesn't know what they're doing, together we can pull and raise this web of human consciousness to
Mhm.
this new earth, the good
Yeah.
direction.
The good direction. I'm so excited. We just have to slug through this little in between part. I call it
Yeah.
remodeling the kitchen.
Love
So
it.
I want to talk about I have a girlfriend who's had a full Kundalini experience like you, like out of the blue, freight train running through her body, the whole thing. And I noticed that the way that you speak and the way she speaks is very similar in that you're both careful. You're both careful and you're gentle. And I understand now it's because your energy is so powerful that being careful with it is critical. So here's a story, and this is the next topic I kind of want to move into. She astral travels regularly, has incredible intuitive, like you. In other words,
Yeah.
that whole skill set. So one night she was at home, her and her husband were getting ready for bed. He said, would you like to have sex tonight? She says, I just whooped, not tonight. So she goes in and brushes her teeth and comes out, and there's another version of herself having sex with her husband.
Hmm.
And what I'd like to lead into is that shifting realities, or the fact that there are so many different timelines, at least I think so. There are so many different timelines going on at any given moment based on decisions we made, based on decisions we didn't make, that other choice, this and that. And it would appear that based on what I've seen, it's just happening all the time everywhere. We just don't perceive it.
Absolutely.
So can you kind of take that and help us understand? Because a lot of us don't understand infinite timelines. I mean, what does infinite even mean when you're an earth human? We have this finite time, linear time-based existence. So how does that work for someone with an expanded reality?
Yeah, for someone, as we're expanding our reality, we're noticing these choice points, decision points are often doorways into different realities. So every time you're making a choice, like one day I was seen bilocating, I was in my reality, I just remember that I'd gone to do a book signing event and it was a beautiful day, beautiful time of year. I think Indian summer in California, just gorgeous. So I'm indoors at a book event, looking out the windows and daydreaming and wishing that I was walking down a street near my home, which is beautiful. Just thinking it would be a nice day to be strolling down the street, stop at the bookstore on it's Solano Avenue near where I live. And anyway, that I didn't think anything more of it till I got home and got an email from a friend saying, Cynthia, I thought you had a book signing event today, but I saw you. And I said, you saw me where? And she said, on Solano Avenue. I said, what was I doing? She was just walking down the street. I'm like, oh my gosh, what time was that? And it was exactly when I was daydreaming about it. That's an example. What it might feel like from our point of view is what we think is a daydream. What if that's exactly a real experience? I have another one of those, which was involving my two daughters on a cold winter day this time, early morning. At that point, I was divorced, and so I was a single mom at that point. It was my job to wake up and make sure they get ready in time for school, but I didn't want to get out of bed because it was cold. So I'm just daydreaming, like I think it's a normal thing. You just daydream. I just daydreamed, okay, I'm gonna get out of bed, I'm gonna walk down the hall. I'm going to open their door, say, good morning, girls. And I'll walk over, open the curtain that's too heavy for them to lift, turn on the light and say, time to rise and shine or whatever. And then, so on and so forth. Well, I'm thinking all that. And then I just hear some little voices down the hall. And I'm like, what? They never woke up on their own. And I hear a pitter patter of little feet. And then they're peering in at me like, Mom. And I said, yes. And they said, what are you doing back in bed? I said, what do you mean back in bed? I'm like, what? And that got me out of bed. And then I'm like, what's going on here? And it was just the three of us in the house, but their window was open. That's with a curtain that's too heavy for them to lift and too complicated. There was no way they could do it at that age. And the light was on. They never did these things. They woke themselves up. No, I believed them that I'd gone in and woken them up. But at the same time, I knew I had never left my bed. So that's it's an interesting viewpoint. And I've got a third story more recently. I'll make this quick and I'll come back to I think stories kind of give us a clue of what's going on. The third one, that one's kind of, it's a little sad and scary a little bit, but then it's good. Okay. So in 2016-ish, I got pneumonia. I realized I'm really sick. I realized this could kill me, but I did what I usually do when these things happen. I sort of march up to talk to the creator, source, God, and just say, okay, what's going on? Let's take a popular vote. If I'm needed here, then I'll stay. You take the vote, you decide. And I can feel the vote, like, yay, like, okay, I'm staying. So do what you need to do, because it looks like this was going to kill me. And then I have all faith, like, okay, we're taken care of. And I come back down like I do when these things happen. But then privately, I do get over this pneumonia that was getting pretty bad. And I tell my husband, that almost killed me. I told my daughters, who were young women at the time, told my parents and my sister, but nobody else. And then fast forward a few years later, 2019, I got an email from a gentleman who said, you don't know me. I'm Steve Boucher or whatever, Boucher, Boucher, an author, musician. He said, you don't know me, but I'm so glad to see you're back. Because this may sound weird, but in my reality, you died. And I wrote back, that does not sound weird. Tell me more, who, what, when, where, why, just fill me in on what happened. Because I'm not going to give him any clues. Tell me more. When did this happen? Well, guess what? It was like spring 2017. He found out, that was when he found out by social media. My husband had left a post saying after several months of illness, Cynthia passed away. And that made sense. It matched with the pneumonia thing that had been fighting off. So he was there in another reality. I took his word for it. And I said, yeah, you got that right. But I haven't told anyone. Then I put the word out to my subscribers, anybody else. And then I heard from a lot of other people, like, yes, and they heard different ways. So I'm mentioning this because I needed to make a choice that most recent time. I was going through some stuff in my personal life, and I needed to, when I came back after talking with Source, Oneness, God, Creator, I realized, okay, I need to be fearless with this stuff that feels like a personal betrayal that caused the sickness that brought on the pneumonia. I'm just going to be fearless. I'm just going to realize, okay, whatever that was, I'm not going to worry about it or take it personally. I'll just deal with it, pull forward from here. Everything's going to be fine. I'm not going to worry about any of it. And there was a lot to worry about at that time, but I just thought, nope, I'm not going to worry about it. So that all turned out fine in the long run. I think the choice point is vitally important. And then the daydream things, that's where I was daydreaming and bilocating. Those are very important too. And to tie in with your friend, I've had people that I believe and that I trust write to me sharing stories of where they've seen themselves. And I've seen a future version of myself once from years, like decades in the future. So these sorts of things can happen too. We can get timeline crossovers, all sorts of things can happen, but you can also sometimes see another possible reality. It's possible to see yourself. So what happened to your friend it sounds like, how can that happen? But I've definitely heard reports through 25 years of firsthand reports that I'm sharing on my realityshifters.com website with people. They say, I've seen myself driving a very unique van with this remarkably weird contraption on top of the car. And that was me driving it. And we just went right past each other. Because she said, I went back to go get something and then I'm passing myself. Like, how can that happen? And that's not the only person that's happened to.
So it can actually, people who have not had a Kundalini experience could have that experience as well.
But I think it helps. Yes, I think once you've had the Kundalini, then you're in the realm of as you think, so it is. And but you might think that doesn't open up much. Oh my gosh, it does. It opens up a whole world of wild and woolly, wonderful world of things.
Mm-hmm. I know that, we hear a lot about the energy on Earth is shifting. It's raising, Gaia is raising her vibration. Things are shifting. And I have noticed myself, there are mornings, Cynthia, that I'll wake up and the soup that I'm in feels completely different. Like I'm in a new reality here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also been mornings where I've woken up and thought, I feel like I'm floating. I don't feel like I'm connected to anything that I'm seeing around me. So I know that for those of us who don't have not had a Kundalini experience or have expanded sensory perceptions, we're getting it too, at
Yes.
least a little bit. I can't even imagine what it's like for someone who's as sensitive as you are.
Well, it helps to stay grounded with nature for sure. So
Hmm.
just loving, like there's a beautiful redwood tree, a couple of, well, several beautiful trees near my house, and just loving them, seeing them, feeling connected to the weather, the earth herself. And these things may sound simple and very basic, they are,
They're
but
critical.
oh yes. And the more invested I am truly in that and feeling like this is my home, and really loving, deeply loving that. I feel that there's a reciprocity going there, and then that becomes this beautiful anchor. It seems like then I am connected, and whatever the so-called insanity of the human thought forms might be, it's like, well, humans get a little crazy, but we know that nature is there, and that those of us who are anchoring into this goodness are there. Therefore, it's not going to go completely nuts. No matter what happens, it won't. There's always going
Yeah.
to be goodness here,
Hmm.
and that's for sure.
I noticed that I would have said 5 years ago, I'm never coming back to this place. No way. Now I can't wait to come back because I am passionately in love with the earth, with the trees, the leaves, that everything about it's just so we have an extraordinarily rich, diverse, incredible environment that is so abundant.
Yeah, it's just, and it talks to us too. You can
Hmm.
you can feel it in the heart is where if people wonder where is it talking, feel your heart.
Hmm.
Check there. Whatever
Yeah.
whatever grabs you. Like some people love
Well,
sunsets.
we mostly live up here. Maybe we need to move down a little
Yes.
bit. Yeah. So we've touched on it a little bit, and we're definitely we're going through a thing here on the planet. And I've heard people refer to it as the greatest leap for humanity in history or ever. Can you talk a little bit about what your perception is, or what's going on on Earth, and then maybe help us out from an expanded perspective point of view on some some guidance? Like how do we stay out of the fray and march through this as best we can into something fresh and new without getting crumpled in the meantime?
Yeah, that's a couple of questions there, and they're big ones too. Yeah,
Mhm.
the first one, well, they kind of connect together. Yeah, where are we going? What's this big change now?
Yeah.
I like to look at the Hopi. They have this beautiful way of talking about the way we go through different ends of the worlds, and the world's ended 3 times. And I think a lot of the traditions and spiritual teachings talk about the Great Flood. Some talk about a great fire. There's this common feeling of humanity, like, oh yeah, we've been through that. We've been through ice ages. We feel like, I think we remember that collectively. Like, yeah, that's happened. And so now it's going to be the 4th time that we go through what feels like end times, but it's really a convergence of timelines coming together, is what I feel. Like I can feel it, like there's a convergence. Things are coming together that maybe it doesn't make any sense. That's some of the Mandela effect stuff and the timelines converging. So that's one way to look at it. And we'll navigate it together as we always do by just keeping our hearts open to each other and to what really matters, because that's what's good, and that's what we know. That's the way, that the path that guides us through, is to really trust our hearts, and at the same time keep humble, realizing that we might think we're in charge, but it's that whole thing I learned with my Kundalini, that if I can trust levels of myself that I can't even see, but that is me, and that's the real me, and it's bigger than fits in this body, and just relax and relaxing is a big thing with humility. It's just knowing that even though everything seems out of control, what if this is as good as it could get? Even though this is not what you thought you would have chosen, what if somehow it's exactly perfect? And what if creator's in the details? What if this is a collaborative joint venture with all of us and the earth, which I believe it really is. And she's helping us mature collectively, that we're learning to work together, cooperate more, to move through this fourth world. The fourth chakra is the heart chakra. And so if that model holds, then we're going from having hopefully semi-mastered the heart, caring enough about each other and the earth. Maybe we've done it. I hope so. And then we're moving into learning to start mastering the throat, so that's like, let there be light. You say words and they come true. Coming into the full power of the creative force of the words that we think and that we speak. And so this is that softness and kindness and gentleness you're speaking of. Yeah, with anybody who's gotten into this Kundalini area, we quickly learned, bring it, just make it soft, make it subtle. And if you listen to angels or God, then you'll know that's like the softest, most subtle realm ever. And so it does tie into becoming softer, gentler, and seeing that beauty and finding purpose and meaning in that, not needing the crashing, chaotic, lower vibrational things, which were fun and important at one point in the journey. But now, are we ready to move into a more refined state of being for all of us in harmony with nature?
Yeah. And that's the question of the hour. Like, are we ready? And I'll have to say, I have noticed just on a real human level, person to person, an acceleration of kindness. What I see on social media is the exact opposite. It's not as kind. It's a little bit rougher and crashing and this and that. But the person to person communication is just becoming, for me at least, remarkably caring. People, just a culture of kindness almost.
Yeah.
So I have a big question for you that I've been pondering. Earth is school. We come here to learn. And oh, by golly, what I can say is I've learned a lot. So, it was a success. I learned a lot. If this reality system is probably one of the more lower vibrational reality systems available to incarnate on. So if Earth cycles up to a higher vibrational plane, where are we going to go to get that kind of Earth gritty, confrontational stuff that Earth School is known for? Or is it that we don't need it anymore as an entire collective, not just the collective on Earth? Did I make that clear, that question?
I think so. Let me see. So let me try to rephrase it and see if I have it. So
Mhm.
you're asking, like, it seems like we need that gritty experience. So will we still get grittiness enough in this new higher frequency, higher vibratory new Earth? Is
Well,
that it?
well, well, if the new Earth is at, let's say, the fifth dimension, higher vibrational level, a little bit more unity consciousness, focused more on creativity than conflict, less duality, more cooperation. So that's a completely different environment than what we have here on Earth now. It's more contentious, it's more conflict, there's less integrity, less of all the things that we find, to be higher vibrational characteristics, I would suppose. If we don't have that anymore, where are we going to learn those lessons? It's like I can say not all my experience here has felt good. A lot of it has not, but boy, by golly, have I learned from that. So where would we go as spiritual beings to incarnate into that kind of vibrational high confrontation environment, or do we not need it anymore at all?
Well, I don't know how to answer that exactly because I can't say that I know for sure, but I do know
Hmm.
one thing. Like when we think of time as linear, it isn't. So,
No,
so
it's
that
not.
fortunately that opens everything wide up. They're like, oh, good, good, good. So if someone finishes the life here and they still need to go through that gritty, lower vibrational stuff, no problem. They just jump back into, in the past to a grittier time and they can deal with that and reveling in that area, and that'll be fine, no problem. So we don't need to worry about that. And so it's kind of like subjective reality is the true reality. In other words,
Okay.
imagine that creator always says yes to everything because that's what it looks like to me. And that means everything that can happen will happen for someone, but not all of us need to go down all those paths. Some of us can just look at that. It's like if you're in a restaurant, you can just see what people are having delivered to their table. You just walked in, you sat down, you're looking at the menu, you don't know what you're going to order, and you see a waiter walk by with a whole tray of dishes, And you look at it and think, well, none of that, whatever that was, that wasn't it. And you just know, like, okay, I could smell it, I could see it. That doesn't look quite right. But on the other hand, you see something and it does look good. So you can learn a lot just by observing, is what I'm trying to get at. In other words, some of us might remember, if you believe in past lives, that feeling, or reading a book, seeing a movie, and then it jogs that memory, like, boy, I don't need to go through that. I don't need to do armed robbery or whatever. It's like, okay, I think I burned off that in some other past lives. I do not need to do that. That's not doing anything for me. Just not into that. And so and you can start sensing that you're not being forced into making good ethical or moral choices, but rather you're choosing based on something. Who knows what that memory is? Maybe when you think back or watch a movie, you're tapping into that other past life and drawing from it. So I know in the future we'll be able to do that much more readily. You won't need to live all those lives. You can just think about it and, woo, got that one. Not doing that. So you just look at a dish and think, okay, that one or not that one. So it's going to get easier to tell, and you'll have that full experience instantly, which is something I think that's a Kundalini thing, but all of us, because of the energies that you're noticing on the planet, we're getting there. We're starting
Yeah.
to get that
Yeah.
experience.
And it must be a collective desire to cycle up, or it wouldn't be happening.
Yeah, and I think that's why I felt like I was on the wrong planet when I got here.
I know, I remember that. Whoops, wrong planet.
It's been a terrible mistake. I'm out of here. Yeah, I know.
Can
But
I
now,
speak with the manager?
right, right. Yeah. So if people feel that way, you're the ones we really need. Those of us who feel that way, we're the ones really, we have high standards. We're very discerning, and we are locking in a very high vibratory place where we can be kind to one another. And that's absolutely the right way to be. And it works. And, you don't need to be mean or small-minded to get your way. That's not effectively going anywhere. That's like a dead end, and we all know it. The place we're going. It's not weak. People might think, well, that's weak. No, that's not weak. That's
Yeah,
wise. It's wise and it's deep and it's strong.
so when did you grow out, or maybe you haven't, maybe you still feel like you're on the wrong planet?
Have my moments. But well, no, actually what happened, I think, I don't know if I talked about that previously or not, but anyway, I was about 5 years old when I finally thought, okay, I figured this out. I can get back to what I remember, because this is some sort of trick. I got born into this world, but I remember how good it is between lives. It's awesome. So, for me, if I say it's as good as being dead, that sounds crazy, unless I'm talking to near-death experiencers. They're like, yes, yeah, they get it. Yeah. Okay, so I knew how good that felt. And then I'd look around here and I noticed people would say one thing that they're visualizing it, but it doesn't match what they're feeling. And it sure doesn't match what they're actually doing. Like, what a mess this planet is. And these are the role models, these are the leaders, the teachers, like this is messed up. Sorry, I'm out of here, because that's not the way things are, in the between place that I just came from. So I'm heading back there. Figured out that my parents weren't exaggerating about fast cars in the neighborhood. If I timed it just right, I could get my head run over so I would die and not get mangled. And I thought, but it took me till I was about 5 to figure that, like, yeah, I can do this. I can do it.
Oh my, that's pretty for 5.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I can do this. This is doable. But then something funny happened. And I thought, well, this is kind of nice. I mean, I have a good family. They're sweet. Everybody loves me. So I was sort of enjoying that. And I came into the house sort of mulling that over one day. And then time slowed to a stop. And I was surrounded by gorgeous Easter egg colored sort of pastel orbs of gorgeous light beings just saying, like, hello, you have a choice to make. You can choose fast or you can choose slow. I'm 5. Fast means you're out of here and back. And I'm like, yeah, fast. They're like, wait, 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 wait. We're going to show you something before you make that choice. We'll show you, a few things to consider. Number one, if you go fast, then your parents will never recover, and it'll be very sad. So I could see my mom especially be very depressed, and my dad too. And I thought, well, they'll get over it. I was really hopeful. I know it sounds cruel. And two, they said you won't be able to help all the people you could help. You're here to help people, and that they'll find someone else. There are lots of other helpers, no problem. Man, I'm cold-hearted. Okay, then number 3, it's embarrassing. This is what they got me with. It is embarrassing. But I was 5, in my defense. You'll be back. You chose to be here. You'll lose your 5-year head start. I'm like, what? I chose this? I don't remember that. I'll lose my 5-year head start. Unthinkable. Okay. And then they had me right there at age 5. I'm like, okay, then you guys must not be lying. So I don't know why I'm remembering how good it is between lives. I guess that's part of it. But I got demanding at that point. Like, okay, well then in that case, if I can't be in heaven, then I need heaven on earth. I need to have these people in real life, not just these glowing orbs right now. I need these people on the planet, boots on the ground with me. I was 5, so it was more like I'm just thinking this to them. It's like and I was very demanding, very insistent on this point. They said, "You'll have it." I said in person, not this little business of the angel thing. You'll have it. So anyway, I took that as a very strong indicator, like, okay. But then where am I going with all of this? Well, now I'm not 5. So now I know my life is not my own. It's, I really do. I hope I remember that one. That was sort of embarrassing. But now I realize that I am here for all of us. We are connected.
Yeah.
It's not just me. That's a very sad way to, I mean, it's going to make me cry. It makes me feel like, oh man, I actually thought that. I was so selfish, and I would hope.
You were 5.
I was 5. In my defense, it's like, oh my God.
Oh my gosh. You had just decided 5 years earlier to come to Earth to help them,
Which I forgot
through this
about.
transition.
Had a
So it's
beautiful
like
memory wipe.
you get a pass
Yeah, I know. That's
on the
sweet.
5-year. Yeah.
Yes. And also I felt like I was still getting R&R and recovery time because I'd made this jump forward into that horrific past life in the future, 540 years
Yeah.
from when I was born.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I needed time hanging out with the angels, hanging out with God. It's like, I need like centuries in here before I'm ready to come back out again.
Yeah.
But they felt I was ready. So it's like, and I think I needed to remember that hanging out with the angels thing, because then I do get demanding, like I need that on earth. And there are those of us who feel that way. And I think we're the ones, it's like programming a parking spot. It's easier to find the parking spot when you know what you're looking for. Well, I know what heaven on earth feels like. And I'm nothing less than that is what I'm aiming for.
Have you seen glimpses of where we're going?
In the sense that I remember where I came from, then I would say that's how I'm steering. It's like, it's got to feel like that. It's got to feel like we know each other through our hearts. And
Yeah.
doesn't matter what you look like on the outside. Doesn't matter if it's an animal or a plant or a being or an ET or whatever. It's like, you know it by its heart. And you feel that connection, and you feel that sense of kindred spirit. And there's an expansive feeling. To be between lives is to be the fullness of who you are. It is like that Kundalini. But you're between lives, so you don't have the body, so it's not so confusing. This is confusing, to be expanded but in a body. But
Yeah.
that is where we're going. You're right about it.
I hope we get there soon.
Well, not too soon. We don't want to rush it too.
Yeah, that's that's true. Yeah. Well, this has been wonderful, Cynthia. Thank you so much for your time. I just always love talking to you and listening to you. Do you have any parting suggestions or words of wisdom for those of us who are hoping to find our way through these next few years?
Yeah, just be good to yourselves, be kind to yourselves, just really love yourself. I know that's what everybody says, but it's when you really feel it, then just listen to the self-talk that's running through your head. Realize it's not you. These are just thought forms, and start to be the discerning factor of that, because this is part of that passageway into running all that energy. And so it's a very powerful skill. I know it sounds basic, but all of us can benefit from it. Every single one of us can benefit from that one.
Yeah.
Just to be kinder, more loving, more patient, more gentle. And just suddenly you'll start feeling like your heart expanding and opening, and wonders and miracles come into our lives.
Because it goes out into the field.
Yes.
You're just another point of light. So wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us. Cynthia, I hope you'll come back.
I'd love to. Anytime.
All righty. Bye now. I hope you enjoyed this video. Coming up next, this is a good one. Or you might really like this one too. Either one of them could be perfect for you. Before you leave, don't forget to subscribe.